Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. This is Gemini Brett with a quick transmission regarding Saturn's return to Capricorn. And Saturn was in Capricorn for a couple years and moved into Aquarius in March of this year, right around the equinox. And is now backing it up, having stationed retrograde in Aquarius, is now backing it up to return to Capricorn for some unfinished business, perhaps. Let's look at some dates and contemplate what's been alive and maybe set some intentions for this last journey of Saturn in the sign of Capricorn that we will experience for, I don't know, 27 years or something. So in fact, I'm going to go back a few years here, and we will find, let me also change this house system to the 0 Aries wheel. Will make it more applicable to all of us. Don't need local houses showing. Okay, and somehow I managed to get all the way back to 2012 before the world ended. Or is that this year? Let's look in this wonderful software. Astro Gold quickly allows me to see when Saturn first ingressed Capricorn. And that was on December 19th, 2017. Remember, that was like literally came in at the solstice time. And Saturn spent some time in Capricorn, moved into the sign of Aquarius in March of 2020. It was March 21st. The sun ingressed Aries in March 19th. In the evening here in California where I live, and this is set to Pacific time. So it was shortly after the equinox, right? So Saturn came into Capricorn in around December solstice 2017, and then left Capricorn for Aquarius around March equinox 2020, right? So 2 1/3 years about. But now Saturn, this is now, and Saturn will return to Capricorn. I guess I write that this evening Pacific time. It's about 4:37 p.m. and we'll hang out in Capricorn. We'll see Saturn go direct in the sign of Capricorn on September 28th, 2020. And so notice that Saturn will not retrograde back far enough to make another exact conjunction with Pluto. They get close. Or Jupiter, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that's coming will be actually in the sign of Aquarius in the 1st degree, as I'm sure many of you know, and that is on December solstice 2020. So here we have from today, July 1st, 2017 until September 28th, 2020, Saturn's retrograde journey in the sign of Capricorn, which will feature some significant alignments with Aries Mars. And of course, many, many things will be happening, wheels within wheels. And then Saturn will return to Aquarius to stay for some time on December 16th, 2020. Shortly thereafter, the December 21st Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the 1st degree of Aquarius. Saturn will be in Aquarius, right? Spent some time March 21st, 2020 until today, July 1st, 2020, back into Capricorn. And then returning to Aquarius December 16th, 2020, and there all the way until Saturn ingresses Pisces first on March 7th, 2023. Okay, so that's really all I want to share about the charts and whatnot. And let's just wrap about what is Saturn, what is Capricorn, what is Aquarius, what is retrograde, what is coming back in. So first of all, just consider what's been alive for you since the December solstice in 2017. And how much the world has changed within and without since that time. I mean, it's an amazing thing, Saturn in Capricorn, according to the rules of this craft. This is a home zone for Saturn, right? Traditionally, so is Aquarius. But these are very different signs. I mean, I'll say that every sign is literally a reaction to the sign that precedes it. So, what is Capricorn about? It's about traditions, right? Eldership. And sadly, because we've disconnected ourselves from the traditions of eldership, now we need these institutions, like government, police, corporations, whatever, to play that role of our elders, right? So it's the thing that kind of steps in for that part in us that's not willing to do our own work. If you look, sometimes that's beautiful, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to have to create a computer to use a computer, for example, right? So I don't want to say that's all bad, right? But there is something about Saturn and Capricorn, I think, especially now Saturn retrograde in Capricorn again, that is about, in the words of Terence McKenna, an archaic revival. And this has been happening in so many regards, right? So Saturn was in the last degrees of Capricorn when, where I live in California, the lockdowns began around the COVID situation, and they've just been extended. By the way, it was today we were meant to get released from a lot of the conditions and start, opening up and being able to play again. But the number spikes, I wonder why, have asked the governor to keep us locked down, which is a very Saturnian expression and experience, by the way, right? Saturn constrictions, right? So the lockdown is absolutely Saturnian, no doubt about it. Is that more Saturn in Capricorn or Saturn in Aquarius? Well, most of this time Saturn has been in Aquarius, right? So we've been on lockdown. I don't know the exact date. It'd be good to look at. But since around that March equinox time, we weren't locked down then because I was meant to be on a flight back from Mexico, and I saw that could have happened, but I chose to cancel it because of my own concerns that I wouldn't be able to return home. Um, so it's been a long time now. I mean, let's just say that was then April 1st, like 3 months, April, May, June, of full on lockdown, and it's continuing. I mean, it kind of feels to me like Saturn's been like, okay, you sit in your corner and think about what you did and think about how you're living and think about how, more importantly, how do you want to live? So if Capricorn is traditions, right? Aquarius is our revolution and our breakout and our need to change, right? And so modern astrology very much connects Uranus with that energetic, and you can see why, right? But traditionally, this is actually also a Saturnian thing. And it's that Saturn side that is, in a way, like the higher view of a thing, getting out of the turbulence of like the fear and the pain and the suffering and even the joy and the bliss and all, like just having a look at this place and starting to like put the pieces in place to create a more utopian image, a better world, if you will. And when we don't do that, I will let you know that there are plenty of people who are willing to take on that role for all of us and to create the structures, right, for us to have our revolution according to their own design, as far as I'm concerned. And so there has been this really interesting, like, revolting against the system, yet completely complying to the, like, it's been a very interesting contradiction in my experience, and I know in the experience of many others, right? And what we want to create a beautiful revolution for a new world, and part of that is returning to the village, returning to some self-sustenance and not just alone. I love this quote. It's kind of my quote of the day in a teaching that I'll be engaging with it soon. Like, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So it takes a village too, ... is a better thing, right? The way that we do family unit now, or the way that, because that old kind of agrarian family unit thing, which were like kind of in our family values meant to be based upon, but now we're living in this like, oh, send them to the institution to be educated. It's a very weird trip, right? It's right in this cusp. There's something so important about this time of us, those of us who are blessed enough to have kids around, like being more present, being more involved, contemplating how to start creating curriculum, bringing them out into the garden, starting to garden. That's been the reality around here. It hasn't been in my life before. And my partner Anna's been completely running that thing and bringing her son Koa out in the garden, and just the way that we've been involved more in teaching through participation. So I think participation is another very important word here. There's a lot about participation versus anticipation. Like that to me is kind of where the gem is, or the pearl is being formed in there, or like the diamond is getting built in this pressure of the coal. It's like anticipating, where's this thing going to go? How can I get out of it? How do I break through? Versus like participating with the energy of the now, right? And being present with the present of the present, yeah, to unwrap ourselves into a way of like creating a better dream. And it's about connecting to the old ways. I mean, I'm convinced that this is what the Capricorn Council is about. Saturn returning there now, check in on how Jupiter and Pluto have been, how they've been acting as guests in his house, if you will, or her house. And I like that image of her and grandmother wisdom, kind of Saturn and her return to Capricorn, reminding us of the old ways and the old times. Now we are moving forward into this Aquarian reality. I mean, we're like, the technology is not going away. We're not just going to blow this whole thing up. And, so we incarnated in a time where we are meant to find a balance between like kind of the organic and the technological, to understand that the technological is actually a creation of the organic and therefore organic, right? So, but how do we like come to terms and be balanced in that way and not just destroy the earth to try to get away from it or something? So really tricky times. And I think I'm just kind of on a rant here. I have been, I think, feeling the tensions of like fully tuning into Capricornian structure. That's part of my reality, typically, regardless. I think when Saturn returns to Capricorn, we're going to feel the ability to kind of plan the work and work the plan, but we want to do that in such a way that it's not this like anticipation, this need to like see the answer in the back of the book while we're in the middle of creating the equation, if you will. So the importance of the present, but in that center of the present, we can bring a marriage of the future that we are creating and the wisdom of the ancestors into that space. Like that's, again, like for me, that is where the pearl, the diamond will be formed right now. So how can we connect to older ways to make space and solidify an organic structure, right? Deep roots for the tree to branch more beautifully into the heavens of the future. And I would encourage you to look at that time in your life between December solstice-ish 2017 and March equinox-ish 2020 with Saturn in Capricorn. In this time since, like March 21st, 2020 to July 1st, 2020 with Saturn in Aquarius, and see if there's some unfinished business, right, to do in that kind of Capricornian way of restructuring so that we can have this revolution, but it's a grounded one. So one thing else I want to share, which I think is really amazing, if we look at this moment now, we'll find that the moon here in Scorpio has made her last aspect, right? So from the traditional modern point of view, this is moon called void, of course. So her last aspect, by the way, would have been the sextile to Jupiter. You can say, well, then she sextiled Pluto, yeah, okay, but in void, of course, doctrine, we don't really work with the invisible planets. Some do. Either way, that's already happened. You could say, well, she's about to semi-sextile the south node and therefore quincunx the north node. No, that's not in the set, right? I draw that line in here, but that traditionally is not an aspect. So the void, of course, doctrine is based upon moons, Ptolemaic aspects, and that's conjunction, sextile, square, trine, opposition to the visible planets, right? And so that work was finished for the moon's journey through Scorpio when she sextiled Jupiter, right? Wrong. So this is the thing I actually haven't come across before. Like I know it's a thing, and I'll be using this as an example in my classes in the future. But moon after she sextiled Jupiter, let's look at when that time was. So Moon sextile Jupiter was her last aspect in the sign of Scorpio. And that was 8:05 a.m. Pacific today, July 1st, 2020. Right? So 23:56 Scorpio, sextile Jupiter. And it, and then Moon is said to kind of drop her light and, she just gets to release. And I think void is a beautiful thing personally, right? It's like she doesn't have to do all this work because part of the Moon's gig is to translate the light of one planet to the next. So for example, between the time that Moon was trine Sun, yesterday, she's been carrying that energy, which is a beautiful energy, all the way until this moment that she sextiled Jupiter this morning. And then she's void, of course, or is she? Because this is actually not her final work. Right? It looks like it because there's no more planets in higher degrees than Jupiter, the visible planets that she can see. But actually, Saturn's coming back in. Right? So again, Saturn will regress Aquarius around 4:37 p.m. Pacific with the moon still in Scorpio. And then so we can see here that the moon still has some work to do. I think it's too close to the time for the software to sort this out. Let's see. Now there you go. So 6:21 p.m. Pacific, moon sextile Saturn. 29:59 Scorpio, and let's see if we can even get more specific. 29:59:43, right? Out of 29:59:59. I mean, it's like the last arc seconds of this tropical sign of Scorpio before she moves into Sagittarius. Amazing. So, it's actually bringing me into this idea that it's not just Saturn coming back for unfinished business. There's something about this void moon. It's like she's clocked out for the day and Saturn comes back and says, hey, you still got a little work to do. And a beautiful thing there is that, like, even though Jupiter and Saturn will not conjoin in the sign of Capricorn, so it's said that this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, if you will, or cohabitation, it doesn't reach testimony, it doesn't testify, but the moon is carrying Jupiter still and bringing Jupiter to Saturn. So she's connecting them. It helps kind of ease the thing, but also kind of Scorpio opens the heart of the thing of Saturn coming back in to check on how Jupiter has been operating in the sign of Capricorn. Like, have we had that Jupiter kind of spiritual expansion in our place of Capricorn? And for me, so that's in Scorpio moon, it literally is. We went through a whole period last year that was just in so many ways, like that Capricorn Saturn traveling with the south node of the moon forever. And like, it was literally kind of bring out your dead. And I don't mean just like the skeletons in your closet, but it was that. But it was also kind of like reconnect to your lineage, to your ancestors. Look at like at the heart of the Black Lives Matter movement, there is like pure like cleaning up that's necessary in the ancestral lines, right? And that's a huge part of this. We can also understand that whole weirdness, right, that happened before me, like led to me. And it's not dead because I live and I can do something about it. And I'm not just doing that for me, I'm doing that for them. And that doesn't happen, I don't think, necessarily by hating those people, hating their ways maybe, but understanding that this has been the fucking strange shape of the thing. And it's coming now, right, to this place where we want to return, like just go back to before, a few generations ago and generations, like the corruption, go back into the root of the thing. When it takes a village to ... when we had village, how can we recreate village consciousness in modern times? And I think that there's answers. And when I see the way that moon is carrying Jupiter to Saturn, there's spiritual answers that will be found in the expression of the authentic heart. We didn't start there. We started with a bunch of numbers and science. Yeah. But then we came back in, boom, and met that awakened heart in such a way that's going to help us remember how to pray and play and live a better way. See you in space.